Okay. I was born November 24th, 1939, at what was known as Kern General Hospital and in Bakersfield, California. But I was raised in Buttonwillow, which is about 27 miles west of Bakersfield. I had an older brother. He was 2 years older, and my mother at the time was 21. I think she was 21 when she had, I'm not sure. But anyway, later on she went to have a little girl, and while she was in the hospital after giving birth to our baby sister, she was taking a shower. She fell, hit her head, and died. So from then on, our maternal grandparents took me, my older brother, and my little sister. They took us in. I was born Richard Heredia, which was the last name given to me at birth, and then later on took the name Morales.
Maybe just tell us a little bit about your grandparents and the family, like the household that you kind of grew up in early years.
Well, my grandparents, my grandfather was born in 1885, so he was quite old when I came along. But there were, including my mother, there were 3 sisters and 3 brothers. And they all took us in and claimed us as brother, never known as nephew or anything else, but as a brother. That I became into this family. And my dad, or my grandfather, got sick. He got a stroke very early, so he was unable to work. And of course, me and my brother and my little sister, they were getting welfare, but then my little sister died a little after she was 1 year old from pneumonia. We were in Gonzales, California. That's when they used to follow the crops. So growing up in Buttonwillow, welfare kid is what I was, me and my brother Abram. And then my brother Abram, who was my actual brother, got killed in 1955 in a car accident. So, but I was part of the Morales family. I never looked at it any different other than the people from Buttonwillow. I don't know how much detail you want to know about the people in Buttonwillow and the treatment that I got as a kid. It made me kind of a mean person. So that's...
Yeah, I mean, as much as you'd want to share, maybe talk a little bit about during that time. Like, were you working? What did you guys do for fun? What was going on during that kind of era?
Well, we were in school full time, but during the summer we'd go off either to Sanger, San Jose, wherever the crops were, whatever the season was, and that's how we would spend our summers. The rest of the time we were in school and playing sports and just being young kids, having a good time, so nothing really much to talk about going on vacation. The only thing that we did do was when my brother got killed in 1955, my older brother, Gilbert's uncle, older brother Gilbert, took us, that's when they opened Disneyland, and he took me and my mother to Disneyland on the opening day, and it's about one of the highlights of growing up, I guess. The rest of the time we were just being young guys raising a little hell and doing things that we shouldn't have been doing, So.
How old were you when you started working?
As near as I can remember, I would shine shoes. And when the cotton season would start, I would probably about 10 years old, and my mother would fix me the gunny sacks that the potatoes would come in, and that's where I would pick cotton in. Then eventually I graduated to where she would sew two of them together. Then eventually I grew into the point to where I could use a canvas cotton sack. But as far as I can remember, as little as I was, shiny shoes, and when the roller derby would come into town, I would go and put on skates on people for tips and work stuff like that. So one of the biggest things that I did that I regret when I was 15 is when my brother got killed. I kind of took it real bad. Out raising hell and drinking and so on. And one morning, my brother Johnny was telling my dad about what I had done the night before. And I got a pretty good ass chewing. But what I did, instead of going to school, I didn't go to school. I went off and hooked up with these four guys that had come from Texas. They had been on the run. And I got together with them. Didn't go home that night, worked the next day, and we get paid $1 an hour for 10 hours. So the $10 I gave to them, and we went to Texas. I went with them. So when we got to Monahans, Texas, the older guy of the group that was with us called home to tell him that he was on his way and that he'd be home the next day. Well, when we got home to his house, they were waiting for him, the police. These four guys had been in a shootout. That's why they went to California. So I spent 2 weeks sleeping in the back of a 49 Ford. And when it would rain, I got to sleep inside of what's a storm cellar, what they call it. Managed to take one bath after he got out of jail. They were very poor. All they had was black eyed peas, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Bad, sad situation for them. So, but I was there for 2 weeks, and I had an uncle in Odessa who had a daughter that was in Big Spring. So they went and found me, and they took me to Odessa. And then eventually they sent me passage so I could come home. And I came home and kind of straightened myself out for a little bit. Still wasn't the best guy in the world. A lot of mean temperament. A lot of bad feelings in me. Took it out on a lot of wrong people.
Did you attend school at all, or did you just work?
But I went to school, but I quit when I turned 16, and I would work on the fields. Then at the age of 17, I was going to join the service. Me and this other young guy, friend of mine. But a brother-in-law that had a barber shop in Los Angeles, and he came by that morning and asked me to go with him to LA and look for work. And I told him that I was going to go to the service. But then my mother was begging me not to go to the service, telling me to stay. So he said, why don't you go with me for this week? If you can't find a job, go ahead and join the service. But if you find a job, well then, good for you. Well, damn it if I didn't find a job that day. So I worked there till I turned 18, I guess. And then I got real sick. I would get real sick with the flu. And I would miss a little too much time, so I got laid off. And by this time, I was married to Rebecca. So back to square one to Button Willow. And then from then, a lot of different jobs. So,
Kind of go back a little bit and tell me about how you met her and how you guys kind of got together and started dating and stuff. What was that like?
I'm sorry,
How you met Rebecca?
how I met Rebecca? I met Rebecca in grammar school. She was in the 7th grade, and I was in the 8th grade. And we got she didn't like me too well at first. Well, she liked me when we were in the theater, but I kind of acted inappropriate, and she didn't want to have anything to do with me anymore. And later on, she went back to Texas, and then when she came back, by this time, I think I was already out of school. I had already quit high school. But then we got together and started dating again, and ended up getting married.
So you said at first she wasn't a big fan of you. What did you do to change her mind?
Well, what I did to change her mind was that I just acted like a gentleman and showed her that I cared for her, and didn't treat her like some of the other gals that I would go around with, and they were kind of easy prey. So, and she just wasn't that way. So, and I found that out, so I changed for the better, I thought.
What was it about her that drew you to her?
That really drew me to her was just the fact that I liked her, and I loved her. I loved her personality, and I really cared for her. And she was pure. And back in those days, it was something that looked after us.
She liked the bad boys.
Yeah.
All right, so maybe tell me a little bit about your experience, your family kind of dynamics compared to Rebecca's, and the experience you had seeing her family.
Well, the reason my dynamics were so much more different than Rebecca's was because of what I had to go through as a kid in Buttonwillow. The treatment that I got, I was actually considered a town bastard. You can't say it any nicer than that, because my grandparents, I knew them as my mother and my father. But when I got to the age when I could understand, or whatever, the people would ask me how my grandparents were. They wouldn't ask me, how's your mother, how's your father? Or they wouldn't ask me, how's your brother, how's your uncle, how's your aunt? And this kind of would anger me a lot. So in our family, we didn't have a lot of and I'm going to say interlove with each other, that we wouldn't hug each other or try to, I don't know what the words are there. Affection, yeah, that we didn't show ourselves that affection. And Rebecca's family were completely different. You'd go to her house and it was all laughter. It was all this, it was all that. Having a grand old time and all. And I couldn't understand why they could be that way and feel that way and all that. Hell, they're related. Why do you have to put on such airs? And like I say, in my family, not until afterwards, later on in life, that's when we got closer together and were able to do all that. But all that, what came from her side of the family, we passed it on to our boys. And they shared that love. They shared the hugs and all that with their families, their cousins, and their uncles and aunts and everybody. So it was the best thing that could have come out of our marriage, I thought, aside from the fact that she was going to be my partner for almost 68 years. But for that, I'm completely indebted to her for that. So,
Yeah. Maybe talk to me a little bit about how long you guys dated and then into like when you guys got married and kind of started the family timeline began.
I think we must have dated for about a year, right? About a year, I'm going to say about a year. And while I was in Los Angeles working, I think for her birthday, for her 18th birthday, I asked her to marry me. I'm sure I did. And then in December, the 30th, we were out on a date, which her dates were very, she had to sneak off to come and see me. She didn't have the permission from her dad for me to come and call on her. So one weekend that I'm home, I talk her into running off with me. And we run off and go, and we get married in Tijuana. I went to my sister's house and my brother-in-law that lived in LA and told them what we were doing. So the next day they took us to Tijuana and we thought everything was okay. So we got married and actually Abe, I guess he was right around the corner wanting to come out. So we were married in December and he was born in October. And then shortly after that, Lolly came along in April. And then we had a little girl 11 months after Lolly. And then she died. And then after that, we were working in LA. And then Rich came along. And that kind of completed our family because Rebecca got very ill after she had Rich. So she was advised not to have any more kids. And then from then on, it was just different jobs, hidden different places.
Maybe just tell me a little bit how life changed and how kind of becoming a father kind of did it shift your like worldview a little bit, and like how did that affect?
Well, to be honest with you, I wasn't really the best father, although they probably thought that I was, but I missed a lot of some of the things that they did because I was out raising hell. It took me, when I was in Buttonwood, we had to come to high school at BHS, Bakersfield. And on that bus trip, sometimes I'd get in a fight. Something would happen. I would get kicked off the bus. So I would have to hitchhike home. And on the way to get to the Highway 58 to get home, I'd have to go through this neighborhood that was called Westchester. I would pass through there and admire the homes and all that and wondered what it would be like to live in a neighborhood like that. So one of the times a house came up for sale in that area. And this friend of mine took me to go see it because a real estate agent had offered it to him, but he couldn't afford it. So I went and looked at it and really liked it. And I told them, if they could work something out, then, well, they did. The lady that had that house was in trouble with the bank, and she needed to have somebody take it over quick. And she would take over our house, just trade straight across. She would pay closing costs, the whole bit on both of them. I went and talked to Rebecca and showed her, and she says, no way, too much money. We can't afford this house. And I promised her, I told her, let's do this, and I will quit all the running around, going off on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and Saturday or whatever, and make this work so we can afford it. And I talked her into it, I convinced her. And sure enough, we went ahead and bought this house. And then from then on, at this time, I guess I got a pretty good job where I ended up working there for 20 years. And in this time, in those 20 years, we were able to buy some property out here where Abe's at now. And 15 acres we developed and built homes for them. And so, and eventually I lost that job. And I don't think that it was right what happened to me there, but that's neither here nor there, because from there, Rebecca had always wanted me to go off on my own instead of doing all this work for these people, and I did. And that's where we're at now with our company. This is where we ended up. So.
Any memories or kind of, I guess, just seeing them as kids? What was that experience like in the house? And
Well, the biggest thing that when they each came along, it's a love that you don't know about until you have your own kids. And with them, I tried to let them participate in whatever they wanted to participate in and kind of go along with them. But like I said, some of the things I missed out because I wasn't around and it wasn't right for me. But each one of them has their own story. And with Abe being the oldest, he was kind of the go-to guy for me. He was to protect the other two. And at a very small age, I think I kind of asked that of him, which wasn't right, but he never held it against me. And then with Lolly, when he came along, he was, I don't think Lolly ever knew this, but he was, I thought, Rebecca's side of the family, I thought, kind of, I don't want to say that they treated him a little different, but you could tell the difference because I think he was small, and they kind of felt sorry because he was so small and they didn't care if I scolded him or whatever. But he got away with a lot and turned out to be a hell of a good man. And then Rich came along and he gave us a scare of our life because he got sick one night and Rebecca happened to be working for a doctor in Buttonwillow. And he got sick and we spent the night at the doctor's office there the next day. Took him to the hospital and they didn't know what was wrong with him. Well, they did, and they didn't want him there, so we ended up having to take him to Kern General Hospital, and they diagnosed him with chicken pox. What? Measles. They were inborn. They hadn't come out. So he gave us that big scare. Then he gave us raised a lot of hell when he was in high school. He gave us some problems, but then he met Liz and it straightened him out. So that was one of the best things that happened to us was Liz coming along and getting into his life. But I think that with each one of them, I could probably go back and find stories that I could tell you, either good or bad or funny or whatever. But at the moment, it just doesn't come into mind.
Rebecca was telling me about your guys' house, and the boys were upstairs, and you guys heard some water or something. You want to tell that story?
Yeah, I guess we had this home in Taft, and it was 2-bedroom, and they were both upstairs. And they had kind of walk-in closets. And one morning, I guess we're in bed, and we can hear there's water running. And I wonder where the hell is water running from, because we don't have any water up here. So these guys had found a hole in the wall, and that's what they were using to go to pee. And that's how we discovered that.
Did they get in trouble?
I don't think they got into big of trouble, not that I can remember, because they were, at the time, Rich was 5 or 6, 7 years old. Lolly was, yeah, yeah. So they knew what they were doing, but I don't remember doing anything harsh to them. We're living in the projects in L.A., and him and Abe and Lolly, Rich, I don't know if he was born yet. He wasn't born yet. And they were playing out in the swings, and I guess somebody hit Lolly, and Lolly came crying that kid had hit him. So both Rebecca and I stood up there and got Abe and told him, hey, you go over there and get that kid, and you go hit him because he just hit your little brother. So he started to walk off over, and he'd get halfway up there, and he'd look back at us. He'd get over there. He'd walk a little further, and he'd turn around and look at him. Get over there and go. So he went over and got close to that kid, and he looked at him, looked at us, and took off running.
What would you say your family values were? What were your family values? What did you teach obviously, hard work was very important.
And I think the work ethic, maybe at the time, they didn't think so because they didn't get to go to spring break, they didn't get to go to it. They hung around with a pretty good crowd, and they could afford to do all that stuff. And these young guys started working for me when they were 13 years old. By the time that they were 14, they could break in people for me at the job that we had. Abe started when he was 13. He didn't much care for it, but eventually, and Lolly did the same thing, and so did Rich. Lolly was going to be a teacher, but he decided he didn't like that, so decided he wanted to go into work for us. Eventually, we were all working for the same company. That's what brought us where we're at now. But I think their work ethic and I think the way that they treat their family, I wanted them to love themselves, wanted them to love their brothers and not let anybody interfere with that. Even after, when they get married, sometimes they have falling outs and whatever, but don't ever forget that you're brothers and that you love each other, and don't ever let anybody talk about your brothers.
What helped your marriage stay together for so long? What were the secrets to maintaining?
Well, probably Rebecca's strength, because she was a tough one when it came to that. But when, like I was telling you, when I told her that we could afford the house, if I could change all this and that, then whatever, I started taking more of an interest in her. Then I started doing more for her because of what she had been through for the first 17 years. And so I started treating her better. And by that, we got a stronger marriage. There weren't problems when we had a few bumps in the road, but we always managed to take care of them and get along. But I think that was a turning point, was that time when I got her to go ahead and for us to buy that house. And then I started doing more at home and caring more for her. So I think that and the boys, being the boys, that they were all reserved for us, and we never really had any real rough. We maybe had a few bumps in the road, but we always managed to take care of them. So,
What advice would you give your younger self?
oh, I would have told my younger self that I should have stayed in school. I wasn't dumb, but I just didn't see the sense in going to school and my parents getting $40 a month for me to be in school when I could make that in a week. So I would have stayed in school, and that way I wouldn't have had to go back to night school to get my diploma to let them know that I did graduate. But I would definitely been a little bit more involved in the church, because I think that's very important. I've gotten away from that, and I need to get back into it, which I will if I overcome this. But that would be the biggest thing, that I should have stayed in school, and to treat people a little bit better. Not just because they talk doesn't make them bad people. It makes them dumb people. It doesn't make them bad. And because they talked and treated me the way that they treated me, I abused it by knocking the shit out of them in plain words. And I don't think I need to do that anymore. I think I would have more common sense. I would hope so anyway. Be a little more understanding, forgiving.
I would imagine that you're proud of your business and its growth and stuff. Maybe talk a little bit about that.
Well, the business that we're in now, one of the things that we did too, we developed 15 acres out here. And actually, this house is part of that. We're the ones that started all this growth here. But like I say, that they started working for me all that time. And then one day after the Super Bowl, I go to work and I no longer have a job. At the time, Abe and Rich are expecting babies. And so they have to stay there because of their insurance. But Lolly, I leave, he leaves, Rebecca's brother leaves, Augie leaves, Mike Hackney leaves, and there was one more. Huh? Oscar Fuentes. And Richard Andrade stayed there because he was a salesman. And while I left then, we left on, I think, January 31st. By February 28th, we were already in business, this company that we've got now. And it was in Lolly's backyard, because we lived out here in the country. We each had an acre, and he had a big barn in the back of his house. So that's where we started making our farms and doing our stuff like that. Once Abe and Rich had their babies, they quit and they came on board. And Richard Andrade, which was a salesman, was going out, but he was selling for us. And our people that he was working for didn't realize what he was doing. Then eventually he just came on board with us. And there was some rough times going through this with what we were doing. And it took us a while because we were out there doing the work. Like four of us would ride to work in El Camino, which is about a 15-minute drive from here, because the property that we lived in is just right next door. Abe still lives there. So, but we were blessed, had some good customers that came on board with us. And it was rough. It was a hell of a fight, because before we started manufacturing our tanks, we would buy tanks in Barstow and go pick up a truckload and bring them over here to deliver to our customers. But they were willing to work with us for that way. So, and here we are now, 34 years later, and is still at it.
How was, what was the experience like getting to start the family business and have everyone involved and you getting to see them every day?
Well, to me, it's a joy. I care for a lot that we did, but we've had some pretty good battles among ourselves, but we never quit on each other. We've always stuck together. We made damn sure that we worked out our differences and whatever, because even still to this day, you've got 4 or 5 minds that are thinking a little different, and sometimes one will agree with one, and then sometimes you won't. But the big thing is that if you can learn to agree to disagree, then that's half the battle, because then you're working with each other, you're looking at both sides, and you want to make it work because of the company itself. You want to make the company successful, so you have to make sure that you look at it, look at all of it. So,
yeah, it seems like there's been a lot of like maybe the grandchildren and that have got to kind of have their first job.
yeah, they've all, I think they've all been out there, haven't they? I'm almost sure they have. I know that yeah, Buddy, I think Buddy was, or was it Anthony, the first one that came out there? Might have been Anthony. No, Buddy, I think, which he's now in Denver. He's a chef or something. Then I think it was Anthony. Then I think Sunshine worked. I think a little bit was there. I think Selena was there. Yeah, and Missy was there. I think they all came on board there, but they didn't care for it. They didn't. That wasn't what they wanted to do. And we probably, if they'd have all stayed there, we'd probably have 10 in the office and 5 out in the yard.
What would you, now that the family has grown, what would you hope that your grandchildren and great-grandchildren will know about you?
Well, I want them. You know, it's funny that you would ask me that, because Lolly one time asked me what legacy would I want to leave behind, and I never thought of it one way or the other until one of my friends died, and then I thought about the legacy that he had left behind. You know, he had left a lot of nephews, nieces, and that really loved him, that really, 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 truly loved to see the side of him and really loved him. And this was a friend of mine that I'll go back in time when I was 15 and left home and ended up in Odessa with my uncle and aunt. They brought their nephew from her side of the family to stay there that week with me. We could pal around in the whole bit. And his name was Loppy. And we pal around for that week. And a carnival came to town. And it was right around the corner from where we lived. And that night we went to go to the carnival. And he and I were not knowing each other as the way that we thought. The first thing we did when we got there, we went and looked for the people that brought the carnival to town and asked them if they were going to need any help after the last night to tear everything down and all. And they hired us for that. And then the next day, thing that we did, we went out and found us a couple of gals to pal around with that night. Well, this friend of mine, I would not see him for another 20 years. When one of my uncle died and I went to the funeral, I saw him for the first time again. And it was like we had We had never lost sight of each other. We were still that close. That 1 week that we connected, he made damn sure that all his kids knew how he felt about me, and my kids knew exactly how I felt about him. And that legacy that he left, I wanted to leave with my kids, that whatever I taught them, whatever good or whatever bad that they saw in me, that they would take that part of my legacy and be able to give all the good of it to all my grandkids, great-grandkids, especially the love that I care for them, because I love each and every one of them. And then I have even room in my heart for some that aren't even my blood. So I want them to leave that with them, so they'll know that from what I was, from the hatred that I had, for me to have overcome that and not have that hatred anymore. And when I had this surgery, I'm in this one room and I'm having a real bad time. I don't think I'm going to make it. I'm hurting from my chest. This is going on. And I'm praying to God, and I'm just asking Him for just a little more time. Give me a little more time, just so I can try to right this boat, try to get back in the church, and I went to see my number 3 son because of the struggle that he has to give me that much life, at least. And here I am, still fighting.
To the great grandkids, what advice would you give them about life, love, and happiness?
Oh, the same thing that you would have to tell them all is to obey their parents, because now they get along with a hell of a lot more than what they used to, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. But if I was to be around when they were to come about, I would like to tell them to be mindful of their parents and to try to get along with people, not have any enemies, because that takes too much out of you. So.
What was your introduction to the spiritual side and God in your life?
Well, we were raised Catholic. They'd come and pick us up in school to go to catechism. So we would always be going to church, go to confession on Saturdays, go to Mass on Sundays. This went on until I got married and raised our kids, because we would all go to church and they would go to their catechism. They all made their first communion. They all made their confirmation. So, but as far as my introduction to religion, I was raised, bred into it as far back as I can remember. I have no knowledge of ever having to decide which church or whether I wanted to go to church or not.
What is it about the religion and the relationship with God that is most important to you?
Here in the last 30 days, I guess, He's played a bigger role in my part than I have ever allowed Him to. He's blessed me with kids, which is the greatest gift that He could have ever done for me. But here in this last 30 days, before I would pray, and it was just a routine prayer that I was going through. And now by prayer, my prayers are more sincere. I'm talking to Him and asking Him and begging Him to grant me some of my wishes. Give me a little more time. Save my son. Don't take him before you take me.
What would you say, what are you most thankful for in life?
My family. That's the most, that's a, I can't ask for any more. And that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that he's given this one man from a family of 5, but not knowing the father, losing the mother, the sister, the brother, and then being left alone. And then giving me this woman to be my partner in life and to be able to live this life that I've lived, to turn it around from what it was to what it is now, and to have all this love that they're showing me now. It's the greatest gift in the world. What else could I be more thankful for than that?
Good answer.
Could you tell us the story when you were in the hospital? Before we got married, and the priest came. And you had pneumonia.
The story what? Oh,
The priest came.
when I was in the hospital with pneumonia? Well, that part was, she came to see me.
When, maybe start off with about what time, or when?
I was 17, working in LA, and I come home on weekends. And this one weekend, like I say, I was up to no good all the time. And had this friend of from Shafter, where we got to drinking, and I had too much to drink, and I was going to be going back to LA, and he was trying to sober me up, so he put me under a faucet of cold water, ran water all over me, trying to sober me up, and I ended up with pneumonia in the hospital. So Rebecca came to visit me, and I think I had another visitor before she came. Did I? I think I had another visitor before Rebecca came. And then when Rebecca came, the priest came, and he asked me if I wanted to receive communion. I don't remember he asked me if I wanted to go to confession or not, but I think he asked Rebecca to step out of the room, and while he was talking to me, he was asking me about Rebecca, I think. And Rebecca later admitted that she was by the door listening to see what we were talking about. And I think he was talking about asking me about her, if I loved her. I think that was it, wasn't it? And I had told him that I did, that I loved her a lot. And little did I know that Rebecca was outside the door listening to what the priest was asking me. So
I think everybody would like to hear at least one of his battle stories.
one of my what?
Battle stories, one of your good chingazos. Because a lot of guys from different areas of Kern County would come and hunt him down to try to take him out, to give it a shot,
Yeah.
He was a pretty tough guy.
When I was 17 years old, and like I said, I'd come home on weekends, I was at this bar, and this friend of mine, older gentleman than me, had lost his wife to this other fellow from Buttonwillow. And they're standing at the bar, and my brother Eddie was also there, but this guy's name was Cuco, had taken Henry's wife away from him. and they're all at the bar drinking. And Kugel was kind of rubbing it into Henry about what he had done. And I'm standing back away from the bar. Kugel's at the bar. Henry's at the bar. My brother Eddie's over here. And when Kugel starts shooting his mouth off at Henry, and I'm standing back here, I up and I kick Kugel in the face. And then Henry got onto him and beat the crap out of him. Years later, this was probably in 1957, and then when our little girl was born in 1960, 61, I'm at home resting after working, and they come and tell me that there's these two guys in town at the bar, and that they've already run everybody off. They've run my brother Johnny off, and they've run other guys off, and they're wanting me to come to town. And because this Kugel has a score to settle with me. And for some reason, Rebecca didn't argue when I started getting ready to go find out who this guy was and what it was that he wanted. So I went on and got there and started drinking right along with him, visiting with him. And then this friend of mine heard about what was going on. And him and I had been in some scraps together against other people. And he came over to find out what was going on because he'd heard that there were two of them and I was by myself, so he was going to come over so I wouldn't be by myself. So as the night wore on and we're talking, he gets a little heated. And then Kugel starts asking me. He says, "Why did you do that? Why did you kick me in the face that way?" I told him I was young, I was stupid. I'm sorry, I regret it. I shouldn't have done it. But he kept on, and then he said, "Well, anyway," he says, "this is what I brought for you tonight." So I said, "So what is he going to do?" And the guy turns at me and looks at me and says, "Look at me. Just take a good look at me because you see this face has been run through the mill. I just want you to know what I can do." And I said, "You know what, partner? You don't scare me at all. You know what scares me is the guy that did that to you. So if you think you're able to take care of me, let's get it on." Party over. They turned around, walked off, left. No punches thrown, no nothing. But that was kind of a tale like what you look at in the Westerns and stuff like that. And I thought that was always a funny story, but yeah. So.
Is there anything that you would like to tell, like directly to the family, whether it be your boys or the grandkids or Rebecca, just to let them know either a thanks or I'm proud of you or just something, a final note to tell the family as...
Yeah, well, the thank you goes without saying, but I hope that whatever little bit of truth that if we put into this, that they can look back if they do have access to something like this, and they can look at it and know that the way that I got here and the way that I'm going out is the way that life is. And I want them to know that for whatever good or bad they see in here, they learn from it. Make sure that there's lessons out of this, because I don't want anything bad to come out of this. I want nothing but goodness. And I want them to know that the future ones that are coming I'm not here to tell them that I love them, but I want them to know that they're going to be in my heart. And if I end up upstairs, they're going to be up there with me every step of the way.